All right, we'll call the meeting to order for the Finance and Administration Committee. Public session, nobody from the public is in attendance. Any write-ins, emails, letters? Okay, there we go. Presentation and discussion items, update on current projects.
All right, in the current projects, I think we're getting very close. We believe we have a permit to operate on Sewer South Phase 2 by the end of the month. We're waiting on the as-built drawings to be turned over from the contractor to the engineer and to the Department of Environmental Services. And I think that's really the only major one to touch on right now. If there's any questions about any of the others, I'll go ahead and answer those. Otherwise, everything is proceeding as we hoped it would.
Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to action items, the review of September and year-to-date financial reports.
All right, Exhibit B in your packet is the September financial report, and then I believe sent this out to the board October 10th. And we'll allow you an opportunity to take a look at that and ask any questions that you may have.
How did you fare from an expense perspective with the hurricane, Chris? Do you have any?
We, in fact, I just had a meeting a minute ago about that, and I was going to talk about a little bit of miscellaneous. We know we have over 200 down trees across the system, and I believe we expect that to be the bulk of our costs. We have one, if not two, we may have two motors at pump stations that may have been damaged due to electrical matters when power went off or was restored. And I believe with everything else, and I'm probably going to rely on you guys as well as the ones we're having help, that those would become insurance matters first before they would go to FEMA, from what I understand. So we'll handle them that way. But the debris portion of it is going to be our large expense, I do think. So we are having a contractor go and do an aerial flyover of that to do an assessment. After seeing all the difficulties that Seneca had with the documentation and everything else, and now you have to have everything just right. That's just not our world. We don't live in that. We've got to have help to make sure that we do.
We're much better at it now.
So that's TBD. We don't know if we're going to be able to do most or all of the removal with in-house forced labor, or if we're going to contract some or all of it out. But the area we're going to focus on first, as far as removal goes, is the one where we have the rehab project, because they're planning on getting in there sometime after the first of the year, so we need to have that cleaned up so they can get in there and do their work.
Is there gonna be some FEMA money or some money coming from DC or anywhere?
No, I think that's all reimbursement.
Governmental agency, you gotta apply for reimbursement.
Any other questions?
The amount you spend outside of the insurance is gonna be critical to know before you decide whether you wanna sue it for reimbursement.
Yeah, we've had some in the past where, I think Hurricane Irma, if I remember right, the storm that hit in 2017, my first year here, we had some substantial reimbursement claims with that. And we had some folks out of Columbia come up with FEMA, and they were great at helping us to navigate through the process. And then we had a couple of others that we were eligible for, but it just wasn't worth the effort of dealing with the red tape, the minor amount that we would have been able to try to recoup. So this one we think that will be different, so it may be worth the effort, at least to investigate it right now.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the September year-to-date report?
Aye.
All right, action items to recommend to the board: the approval of pay classification to comply with the FLSA changes regarding non-exempt
This one, I believe I brought it up about a month ago, just in my miscellaneous comments, and there was, just some discussion, but I felt I wanted to go ahead and proceed with this and move forward because of the fact that staffing changes happen. Hopefully nothing will happen with Lynn and she does not leave for a while, but in the event, I just want to be prepared because if we do have to go and reclassify this in the future and we open the position up at the lower end of the pay scale, I would then have to delay that to come to the board to get that approval to take place. So that's why I'm going ahead and requesting it now. So, again, if effective January 1st, 2025, employees earning below $1,128 per week, which equates to $28.20 per hour for a 40-hour work week, are to have their salaries remain exempt, or they need to be reclassified to non-exempt to pay overtime. So that's why I'm coming forward with the request now, not so much with our current situation, but in the event that something does change rapidly, that we would be prepared to do so.
Excuse my ignorance, but for not listening, but is that based on the January change or the current?
The January change. So in July 1st, there was a change that took it to $844
Right,
per
we'll
week.
make sure we're talking about January.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So is this what you're recommending to the committee to consider for each one of these positions?
Well, everything's already been approved. Nothing's changing with the compensation levels in any of the classifications. All it really is seeking approval for is to change hold up myself here, is to change the office manager position from an exempt 1 classification at the very top to a non-exempt 5, which we already have a slot for. The lab analyst and the operation, water reclamation operator and the collection system tech 3 are already within that pay band.
So that's the only position we have that's impacted by the January change?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of recommending to the board?
Aye. At least now you get paid for working over.
Executive director's report.
I was just gonna mention about the FEMA, but it's already addressed that. I don't have anything here.
You wanna move the committee meetings back to nighttime so you can make that as overtime?
No.
Because it feels like a waste to do it during the day now.
Any committee members discussion? Anything we need to discuss on a future agenda?
So just for clarification, will, at the next board meeting, is Angie gonna come back with a slate and we'll say yay to that slate, or is she still gonna get, like, I'm thinking of Seneca and Westminster in particular, and then I don't know if we had any other category where you had multiple people listed. Just kind of wondering, like, the logistics of how she's gonna do that. Is she gonna give us just a slate, we can up and or down it, or?
I believe that's how I understood it to work. I think she said the cities would pick who they wanted their representatives to be. That was not her, she didn't feel that was in her realm of responsibility to do, that the cities would be the best ones to select their representative. And from what I understand, the others, she was gonna go through and vet, and I know she's contacted all of the ones, all the names that were submitted. She contacted each of them, and I've heard from a couple of them just asking for more information about it, where they could go and find out, where the study is. And I know one of them I heard back from yesterday that said they appreciated the opportunity, but that they were not gonna, they just felt it was too much for them to take on at this time. So I guess Angie will bring that. I don't know really any more than that. I know Angie, last time I spoke to her, she's busy right now with the RA grant season that comes, I think it's coming up next week. But,
I think that's the schedule that I think they were supposed to be ready for the next board meeting.
I think that's the plan.
You know, one of the things that and I think Angie hit on this, particularly amongst the three of us, for you from Wahala, and I'm just kind of giving my thoughts, I'm not making any suggestions or anything, just kind of my thinking. You from Wahala being an administrative perspective, from Westminster's perspective, so that we have different perspectives from the different jobs, I guess, from I can know how to say that. We're gonna go with Scott as our guy, just so we don't end up. So you've got another perspective on that board, and Scott and I have talked about that. Scott's been around for a long time. He's got plenty of history here, so I think he'll have a good value there.
We were looking at Scott McLean to do ours as well, when she had mentioned she doesn't want to have every position represented by an administrator.
Yeah.
So we were looking at doing Scott McLean. He also has quite a bit, he's been with us 30+ years, so, so we were gonna probably appoint Scott McLean for ours.
And I believe, besides that perspective, I think that that's where she wants to have it open for the board, because I think that she had mentioned that she sees the benefits of having some of these conversations where they did not have to take place in the open, but if you do have a quorum of any committee represented, then it would have to be publicly advertised, so that she wanted to make sure that consideration took place as well, because if you have, say, Celia and Bob on there, where you've got a quorum of the executive committee that would be present at every meeting, so it would have to be advertised and open to the public, so I should think there's that consideration too, as to how.
Well, I think
board
the
wants that
basis,
to be.
the discussion based off of an operational standpoint is probably more important than even governance, right? I mean, I think that the operations of this is the most critical part. How's that gonna work?
Mhm.
Through a regional component, so.
I always kind of
Makes sense.
assumed the governance part was gonna be mostly legal.
So I think that works. You're willing to represent the admins in the room? I think by default, she appointed you that night. so.
Yeah, I had that feeling too. Well, at the time Laramie wasn't on
Well,
board.
congratulations.
And it's one of those, the newest one makes sense. Of course, you can look at it and say I'm not jaded, so.
Well, at least not with regard to this, right?
Yeah. No,
We're all jaded in some way.
Still new enough, not jaded in any way yet.
So I guess she'll tell, listening to you say that, I had wondered, because it was, one of the names I submitted it was Catherine Amidon. She was okay with me submitting her name, but then when she checked back with them, she withdrew. And then there's another person or two that's in there that I wonder if they're really gonna have time. Is there any concern that she's expressed to you so far that we'll be able to fill that complement of folks?
She hadn't said anything to me. The ones I've heard from, and I think she did tell me, and this may have been a week or so ago, that Catherine was gonna withdraw from it. But I know that, Angie was hoping not have it loaded up with consultants, and I think she did mention that at the board meeting. The one that I was notified about yesterday was Richard Phillips, who I used to work for at DHEC. He retired, I guess, 15 or 20 years ago from DHEC. But he was the one that said he appreciated the opportunity, but he just felt it would be too much for him to do. He's doing private contract work, doing project management, inspection services right now. So I don't know if you felt it might interfere with his work slate. Do you know Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich, actually, I worked with that summer with a swimming pool
Okay.
guru, go around and check all the swimming pools.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good guy.
Richard's a great guy.
I hadn't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, I worked for him for years.
Good
Yeah,
guy.
we still keep in touch.
Tell him I said, hey, next
I
time.
will.
He was a really good guy.
Well, just I guess my only concern is having enough of the different categories of folks to be able to fill that committee. If she thinks we're not gonna get there, let us know. I don't know, and we never talked about you or David being on that committee, but I think either of y'all or both of you would still be great representatives to be on that if you wanted to. the way they categorize some of it, Marty, I could see you fitting in a couple of those different slots. Or not, I mean,
Yeah.
or we could say you don't fit in any of them.
Marty's like, no, I don't. No, I don't.
He gave me that look where he's like, I don't really want to fit in any
Is
of them.
asphalt involved in this?
No, but since you brought that up,
Yeah.
Speaking of asphalt, yeah, we need somebody to bid.
Uh-huh.
I'll check on her.
Okay,
and I'll,
yeah, just-
if she does have any concerns, I'll send a email out.
I really thought we were gonna have 5 or 6 names in each one of those, and it turns out, quite a few of those, it was just one person, so.
We'll figure it out.
Alright, any other discussion? Alright. Next meeting, November 4th, does that work for everybody, or excuse me, November 26th, does that work for everybody?
That is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And it may be that we may not even have anything to discuss.
We have a council work session scheduled that day, but we'll probably have to cancel on that.
Are you working?
I'm good.
I'm good, I would prefer not to meet that day, but I'm good.
I'll let you know if there's, I can't think of anything that I would have between now and then.
Are we comfortable to where if there's nothing else other than, say, the financial reports, that we just go ahead and decide that those go straight to board?
So moved.
Second.
Nothing else, we'll call the meeting adjourned.
Do we need a vote on this?
So moved.
Second.
Aye. So moved. Second, aye.
Alright.
Well done, Celia.
How did,
Glad you made it all the way
Catherine,
around.
Facebook.
We lost, but we actually reversed our batting order last night, so we kind of planned to lose. Well, all season.
No, it's just the way you said it.
Yeah, no, but all
We're for
season,
second.
We plan to lose.
your not so good players bat at the end of the batting order.
Yeah.